to Learning Music with Pat. I'm glad you're back again with me. Last week when I started working with the Indian flutes, I went into all kinds of flutes, like the Peruvian flutes, the flutes from Native Americans, the flutes from India. And so what I thought I would do today is do a general review of what I did last week, just like a topical review, and to do a review of the instruments that do not have reeds, the woodwind instruments and wind instruments that are not reeded. Therefore, we're not going to be talking about saxophones, clarinets, oboes, bassoons, and instruments like that. We're also not going to be talking about bagpipes, bagpipe chanters, the Keene, other instruments, because they all have reeds in them. We're going to focus basically on the instruments that do not have reeds that are considered to be wind instruments. And this is basically what I've been focusing on all along anyway. So we'll start off with the recorders. Well, let me show you this list. The Fipple mouthpieces and Fipple-like instruments that have Fipple-like mouthpieces would include recorders, melody flutes, tonettes, song flutes, sassoto flutes, penny whistles, conical and wooden plugged penny whistles, Peruvian flutes, Indian flutes, ocarinas. They all fall in that branch of music and instruments that have Fipple or Fipple-like mouthpieces. So I'm going to go over those first. So starting off with a recorder, let me just review what the mouthpiece is like. You have a block in the back of the mouthpiece, sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. You have a slit that you blow into. You have the labium, which has a slanted area and a little notched out area, and this is the area where the music is made. And then the tube is the length of the tube that makes the different tones, and the tones are dependent upon what you do with your fingers, because as you put your fingers down, the tube gets longer and the deeper the tone gets. Let me just run through this. You've heard me play this many times. Now let me show you two others. This is a little fascinating because these are two red recorders, and if I get it lined up, you'll see that the holes in the front and the tone holes are pretty much even, but it's a little different size. The tone hole in the back, which all recorders have, are not exactly in the same place. They're a little different size. I'll put it toward the front again. They're a little different size. They both have the blocks. This one is black and this one is white, but the color makes no difference at all. What's different about these instruments are, this is from Italy and this one is from China. They play the same scale, but they don't play it exactly alike. One is a more brash, a loud instrument than the other. So I'm going to demonstrate these two. All right, here's my little Italian flute. And you have to be careful with the Italian flute. If you give it too much air, it's going to squeal a little bit. So I did a solo on it recently, so I had to be careful of that. This has the same pitch, but softer. Now, which one would I play if I was playing a solo, because they both have the same pitch? It depends upon whether I want a louder sound or a softer sound. They're playing exactly the same scale. So these two, I'll put these over here. Then you have the recorder-like instruments. I call them the melody flutes. I have two of them here. I have more than that, but I just brought in two so you could see them. They look a little like a recorder. No tone hole in the back, however. That's the big difference. But they have that slit that you blow into, and they have that little labium in the front where the music is made. The tone, since these were inexpensive, is not as good, and not even in pitch, but you know, it's kind of like a toy. I do use them. And here's another one. You can get them in different colors. They're fun to play. They're nice to look at. And they're pitched on the same note. But anyway, these are melody flutes, and they don't have tone holes in the back. They do have a place to put your thumb, and little places to put your, your thumb and forefinger wherever you want to. The thumb in the right hand, the thumb in the left hand. You can see where to put them. But they're basically toys. Another type of instrument, but it's the same kind of thing, and I haven't brought these in for a long time, the flutophone. It does have a tone hole in the back, but it's the same kind of slit for the mouthpiece. You blow in it, and this acts as the labium, and they use it an awful lot for schools to teach them music. And they have basically an octave range. And so this is a flutophone. You can get them in black or white. And the black comes with white trim and the white comes with red trim. Then you have the tonette, which is the same thing, same kind of thing, slit to blow into, and then a little labium here. There is a little tone hole in the back. These are not very powerful instruments, and you don't get a lot of tone out of them, but you get some. A lot of times they're used in the school systems. I suspect that they're a lot less expensive than the flutophones and certainly less expensive than the recorders. The recorders have a lot bigger range. They have a 2-octave range where the tonettes, song flutes, and flutophones do not. They have basically a 1-octave range. So here's the song flute. Same kind of thing. Slit for your mouth. Little labium in the front. It's up high, and the quality of the tone is, I think, maybe a little better than the tonette. It's not a bad tone for a little tiny instrument like this, but you can see they're all recorder or recorder-like with Fipple-type mouthpieces. Then we get into the sassoto flutes. There's something interesting about the sassoto that I've never mentioned before. I've had the sassoto flutes here, but the little slit that you blow into is curved. I don't know if you can pick that up. It looks like a little half moon. It plays very easily. That acts as the slit that you blow into. You have the little labium, which would be right here, and they make a wonderful tone. I've done a lot of solos with them, and they're very nice to play. You can see the strength of the tone. Now let me get a larger, this is also a sassoto. It's the low D sassoto. I have had it here before. Labium placed to blow into right here, and you will notice even in the larger one, and this is the low D sassoto, it has that curved area that you blow into. You wouldn't know the difference if you're playing it, whether it's a straight slit that you're blowing into or a curved one like the sassotos have. They play just as easily as any other instrument, but it is a unique thing that they have that that the recorders and so forth don't have, because they have a straight slit. And they have a very nice tone. The problem with them, as I've told you before, the immense finger stretches that you have to play them. That's the only difficulty. They're really easy to play, easy to blow into. So we go from the sassoto down to the penny whistles. Same type of Fipple mouthpiece. You have the slit that you blow into. You have the labium. Easy to play, no tone holes in the back. They can play a lot of difficult music. You have the penny whistles that are wooden plugged penny whistles. They have the same type of Fipple mouthpieces, but there is a wooden plug and the same labium. And so you have to blow kind of beyond that plug to get air into it. It is not hard to do. You wouldn't even know that you were doing it. The little slit is above the wooden plug. Now let me just play just a couple of notes on this. This one is a Clark's, made in England. These instruments tend to be softer toned and softer pitched than the other penny whistles, but they are technically penny whistles. They are conical because they come to a point. But you see, we're still talking about instruments with a Fipple mouthpiece here. Here's another conical instrument. It's a sweet tone. It does not have a wooden plug. It's just like any other instrument, a slit to blow into, a labium right here, no reeds, and absolutely no tone holes in the back. Also softer tone. It is conical. It comes to a point. I have a bright green one and I have a red one. They sound exactly alike. They're very nice to look at and nice to play. Now the penny whistle also has a low penny whistle, a low D penny whistle, and you'll notice that the slit is straight, just like the other penny whistles are, and they're not like Sassutos. The same slit to blow in, the same labium in the front, and the enormous finger stretches. Very nice tone on them. I like playing this. The only thing is I can't play too many notes because, you know, it is so hard to get your fingers stretched out far enough to play them. Then we went over Peruvian flutes, and I just brought a couple of them back for you. This is beautiful orchid color, and with the designs, all handmade. There is a little block in there. You can barely see it, but it's there. It's kind of like the same color almost as the surrounding wood, and you do have to blow over it like you do the wooden plugged instruments, and you do have the labium right here. I'll try playing. Some of these play well, some of them don't. The thumb hole is in the back and you have to stretch to reach it. That can be a problem. They don't all have thumb holes, but this one does. This one does as well. Beautiful color green. I had these in last week, so you'll probably remember those. I'll just play a couple of notes on them. See, the color doesn't make any difference. The tone is the same, made by in Peru, probably by the same company. Then we went into, I think we went into the Indian instruments. I'll do this one first, although I may need to do the ocarinas first. This is made in India. You blow through just like any other Fipple mouthpiece, and then you have the little labium here, which is notched out, and you don't see a block. It may be in the inside, but it plays pretty well. If this is from India, this is not a Native American instrument. Now, I want to go into the ocarinas. I haven't really done much with them. I will be bringing them back and probably doing a class just on the ocarinas. This is from Peru, and it's made out of clay. It would easily be broken, and you can see the similarity if you look at the Peruvian designs and so forth. This is a cross. It's made to be worn. But it's made in Peru, made out of clay, and there is a very colorful nature to the Peruvian instruments. Designed, very well designed, and here in the back you've got quite a little hole in the back. In the top you have that slit that you blow into. You have two tone holes in the back, one for each thumb, and then you have holes in the side for your fingers. I'm including it in the same kind of instruments as the recorders. Because of the design of the mouthpiece, you blow in the slit, you have your labium. It is in the back rather than in the front, but it's there, and so therefore I class them the same. Now let me get my hands right, and just hope I don't drop it. The tone is very, very soft, and it's nothing you would use professionally probably, but it's something that's native to Peru. One of the things that's interesting is the loudness of the tone that you can get out of these little instruments. It's amazing how loud they can play. Then, of course, here's another ocarina. I don't know if I've ever had this one in here, but you blow in the slit, the labium in the front, 2 tone holes in the back. It has rather a nice tone. And you can see the volume you can get out of it. This is plain wood, and I'm not exactly sure where it came from. The ocarinas are small, usually squarish or round, but they're not very big. I do have a sweet potato ocarina that's elongated more, almost looks a little bit like a cigar shape, but they are small. They usually play 1 octave, but the thing they have in common with the recorders and other instruments, they have that same type of fipple mouthpiece, and that's why I include them. So we've got so far, looking at this chart, the recorders, the melody flutes, tonettes, song flutes, sasuto flutes, penny whistles, the conical and wooden plug penny whistles, the Peruvian flutes, the Indian flutes, and the ocarinas. That I consider to be all one class of woodwind, wind instrument that does not have a reed, and they're very similar in the terms of their mouthpieces, so I'm considering them together as one class. Native American flutes is another class. And what I'm going to do is bring back, I'm not going to do a lot with it because I had it here last week, but the mouthpieces of the Native American flutes are just a simple hole that you blow in. It's not a slit, it's a hole. They do have the labium, which is right here. Since it plays on a pentatonic scale, I just want to review that. Haunting and very beautiful, but it's in a class by itself because of the shape of its mouthpiece, simply being a hole that you blow into. And next I want to go into the fife. A fife, you can always tell a fife. A fife has got a hole, a round hole as the mouthpiece. It is flat with the instrument. It's not raised like the flute. It's just flat like the instrument is, and it's level with the instrument. This is an example of a fife. This one came from Massachusetts. It was given to me, and you play it like a flute in the sense that you hold it up to your mouth and play it like you would if you were playing a flute or a piccolo. The other instruments that I've gone over, you hold them down and you're playing on the top of the instrument is down and you're fingering it down. But with a fife, it's like a flute in the sense that you hold it up, and therefore it is called a flute. Now I have a fife here. I'm gonna show you, but I'm gonna have to stand up and show it to you because it's rather large. It's called a walking stick flute. When I brought it in, people were surprised. This is a flute. It is a walking stick flute. If I put it on the floor, you can see it almost comes up to my shoulder. Very, very tall. And it looks like a walking stick. You cannot put your weight on it because this tube is hollow. Very long, but it's hollow. Technically, it is a fife. If you look at the mouthpiece, and the mouthpiece, by the way, is not on the top. It's right here. But if you look at the mouthpiece, it is a hole, and it's flat with the instrument. This is a bamboo instrument, It has a compass on the top of it, so if you wanted to take it with you, if you were climbing somewhere or walking somewhere, you could actually use the compass. I know I have in times past actually used that compass, but you hold it up like a flute, so this is going to look a little awkward. Beautiful instrument though to look at. I would hold it up like a flute, put my mouth by the mouthpiece, and play it like this. That is a walking stick flute. It's the biggest one I have. I do have another one, but technically speaking, it is a fife. The other one I have is made out of a different kind of wood, and it's a little smaller, and it doesn't have the compass on the top. But isn't that an interesting instrument to look at? Sometimes I bring it into places just to have people's reaction to it. They always have a reaction to it because you'll never find a flute that's any longer than this one. They call the fifes flutes. They are a flute, but the mouthpiece is such that it's technically a fife. Then you have the end-blown instruments. End-blown instruments, I brought them in last week. They have a notch on the top, and you blow across it for the tone. They have a little labium, and they have a little slit that you blow into. Now, basically, they come in two types. And I think I'm going to have to speed this up a little, or I'm not going to have time to finish it. Let me just tell you what the two types are. For end-blown flutes, you have some with the top, it's all covered, it's not open. You do have the slit that you blow into, and you blow across it with the labium, but you do it across like you would a soda can, and it's all blocked in. The other type, by the way, this one comes from, this is Moroccan. This one here is another type where the top is open. You have an open top. There's no, it's like you can stick your finger right in there. There is a tone hole in the back. It has a notch, like a notch, so you blow across it. So some of them have their tops filled in, and you blow across the slit. The others are open, and you blow across it, but you're blowing across an open tone hole with a notch in it. So those are them. And I also want to tell you about a regular flute, or piccolo. I brought the piccolo in. It has the round, it's another class by itself. It has a round hole-like, sometimes elongated instrument, but it's all raised. That puts it in another class by itself. The other instrument I want to go over before my time runs out here is a pan flute. This is my pan flute, made out of bamboo. Now, I put it in a class by itself because even though it's an end-blown instrument, you blow across it, you have various sizes of pipes. It's not like you're blowing through one. You blow across it to get the tone, but there are so many of them. You know, you can get them different sizes and different materials. I met a man who made his own. It's a very large one. It's beautiful, and he made it out of a rosin. I don't know how he did it, but he got the tone just right. So this is an end-blown instrument, but I put it in a class by itself as a pan flute because you blow through so many of them. It's not just like one. So, I think I've covered pretty much most of the instruments. I mean, I can't get them all, I suppose, but I've gotten most of the instruments that do not have a reed that's considered to be wind instruments, including our traditional flutes and piccolos. So I think what I'll do is I'll close it for now. Next time, though, I want to go into some general things. People have asked me, how do you, if you're teaching a group of children, how do you make sure everything is sanitized and safe for them to use instruments? Why is it important to have a good case? When do you want to have a case replaced? Or can you just not bother with a case at all. And there are various things like that. Should you play piano before you play any other instrument because you learn so much on the piano? And what's the difference between a professionally made instrument and a student model? Should you choose one over the other? And I mean, this isn't a complete list of questions that I've got, but I'm going to just take some time next week and answer as much as I can some of those questions. So I hope you enjoyed this, and please join me again.